The story begins by saying Jesus had been doing great things, teaching, giving people hope, giving them encouragement, and he was tired and he tried to get away. But the crowd was so excited and so hungry for his truth, so hungry for his message and his love that they followed him. So it was becoming evening. They're in a big field, like a big park. There's 5,000 people. They don't have any food. And the disciples say to Jesus, send them home. We can't deal with this big of a crowd. We don't have enough food. Jesus says, what do we have? They said, we have 5 small loaves of bread and 2 little fish. And then it says, Jesus looked at the crowd, and in his guts, he felt compassion. He felt this deep love for them, this deep concern. And Jesus said, let's pass out what we have. And as you know, in the story, all were fed. It's a much beloved and oft told story. There's a lot that could be said about this. Let me just zoom in on a couple of things that are of particular importance to me and I think for us these days. Make no mistake about it, first, Jesus is concerned about people's spiritual hunger. Jesus is concerned what people need deep in their hearts, deep in their spirit, deep in their soul. He knows the deepest hungers that people have. He knows that people are hungry for things like acceptance and belonging. People are hungry to know that they're loved. People are hungry to know that they can be forgiven for all the mistakes that they've made in the past. People are hungry for hope. People are hungry for courage. And Jesus responds to the deepest hungers that people have, then and now. Jesus calls them and us to new life, to new community, to be a part of the new world that he is initiating. In our poem today, David White said, one good word is bread for thousands. You hear Jesus saying that good word for you today? Looking at you, knowing your deepest hungers, saying you are accepted, you are loved, you are forgiven, you matter deeply to me, and you will get through whatever it is you're facing because I will be with you. Jesus says those words to us and to all people every day, caring for our deepest spiritual hungers. But in this story, Jesus doesn't do any teaching. All he does is feed people. And it's a good reminder of what we all know, and that is Jesus cares about people's bodies. Jesus cares about people's physical needs as well as spiritual needs. So Jesus takes food from nothing and creates something. Now, there are different ways you can read this. You can read it that it was a supernatural act and this food sort of magically appeared. Or you can read it that Jesus' compassion inspired the compassion of those in the crowd who realized we can share what we have. We don't need to hide it under our robes. We don't need to hoard it. Either way, whether Jesus did something supernaturally or Jesus' compassion inspired others to share out of what they had, it was a miracle. Because when the crowd gathered, there sure didn't look like there was any food. And by the time they left, they were full. Jesus cares about physical needs of people. And this is a time to remember this wonderful quote, powerful quote, that comes to us from Gandhi, who loved Jesus and the things he stood for, and said these words. He said, there are people in the world who are so hungry that God cannot come to them except in the form of bread. Jesus knows the people in his crowd are getting very hungry, and so Jesus comes to them as bread. Jesus has said to his followers then, as he says to us today, people's spiritual needs are of great concern. We don't want in any way to dismiss the importance of the longings and the yearnings and the brokenness that people experience, but he also calls us to care for the physical needs of people around us, the needs of people who are physically hungry. And I think Jesus says to us today, he says, remember that miracle I did back so long ago? Let's do that miracle again today. You and I, we can be partners on an all-new miracle. Now, I came across this story. This comes from a great Quaker author named Parker Palmer, who talks about the miracle of loaves and fishes. He says this. He said he was at a conference. He was done with it in Canada, got on the plane, which boarded at 6 a.m. A lot of tired, grumpy people on a flight at 6 a.m, and then they're delayed. The delay has something to do with the truck that was bringing the food. And after a delay, the pilot came on and said, we're going to take off this morning without coffee because we want to get you to Detroit on time, the plane's destination. No coffee on a 6 a.m. flight. Parker Palmer says, people started grumbling, complaining. What kind of an airline is this? Lousy service. Moaning and whining. The flight takes off. The flight attendant comes on and says, good morning. We're flying to Minneapolis today at an altitude of 30 feet. Trying to get the crowd a little happier. They weren't having any part of it. Grumbled, complained, annoyed. She continued, now that I have your attention, I know that you're upset about the coffee. Well, get over it. Start sharing with your seatmates that bag of 5 peanuts you got on your last flight and put in your pocket, tear it open, pass them around. Gum, mints, share them. You can't read all the sections of your paper all at once. Offer them to each other. Show off the pictures of kids and grandkids you have in your wallets. He writes, as she went on, people began laughing and doing what she told them to do. And all of a sudden, grumbly, moaning people, it felt like summer camp. He says an hour later, the attendant passed by his seat. He called her over. He said, what you did was really amazing. Where can I send a letter of commendation? She said, thanks, I'll get you a form. And then she leaned in and whispered, the loaves and fishes aren't dead. The loaves and fishes aren't dead. Jesus calls us to be generous, to share out of our abundance, because the loaves and fishes aren't dead. Now let me go on from there. That's the easy point. It's easy to be generous. It's easy to buy some extra food and bring it to a pantry. It's easy to write a check. Those are important things. But the generosity of people of goodwill, followers of Jesus, and other people of goodwill goes a long way, but it doesn't go far enough. Last week, it was reported 30 million people, that's about 1 in 10 in our country, said they did not have enough food last week. Empty shelves, empty fridge, 1 in 10. That number is going to go up, according to food pantry experts, to 50 million. That's going to be 1 in 6. 1 in every 6 people you see in this country isn't going to have enough food to get through the week. I have never gone to bed without the confidence that if I'm hungry, there's something in the fridge or something in the cupboards. I'll bet most of us have that same confidence. We just do not know what it means to be that food insecure. Hunger in our nation preceded this pandemic, but it's worse now. To be honest, the system in the U.S. creates a lot of underfed and undernourished people. And statistically, that is especially true for children, for women, for seniors, for people of color, for people with disabilities. The system itself creates a lot of hungry people. I said we talked about the easy part. This is the tough part. This is where we start meddling. This is where we might start getting uncomfortable. You know, there was this great archbishop from Brazil named Dom Helder Camara who said this: "When I give food to the poor, they call me a saint." When I ask why the poor have no food, they call me a communist. We got to ask why poor people don't have food in this country, the richest country in the history of the planet. Doesn't matter what people are going to call us. Doesn't matter how offended some people are that we're meddling. We need to ask, why are people hungry? And can we change this system? John Lewis, this giant of American social life and a great Christian, wrote an op-ed to be published on the day of his funeral. And what a beautiful op-ed it was. If you haven't read it, New York Times, you can easily pull it up. He said a lot of things in there, but one of them was this: ordinary people, he's talking to you and me, can redeem the soul of America by getting into good trouble, asking hard questions, asking, why are so many people hungry in the midst of so much plenty? Bishop Elizabeth Eaton of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, a church which I'm very, very excited to be a part of because of its increasing commitment to these issues of hunger and poverty and others. In a video that was included in the church email, and it's on the church Facebook page, I encourage you to watch that. She doesn't just call us to be generous. She says, church, it is your time to advocate. It's your time to advocate, to speak up. So children go to bed with dreams and not with hunger pangs. I want to encourage you, on the one hand, get out your checkbook and send a generous donation. Our pantry, a pantry at your own church or near you. Let's be generous. But with your other hand, I want to encourage you to get out your calendar. Look ahead to Monday, August 3rd. I want you to take a pencil. I want to encourage you, write in, call my senator, call my representative, call the president. 3-4 phone calls, take you 10 minutes. It goes very fast. Let them know, I'm a follower of Jesus. He fed hungry people, and he wants hungry people to be fed. Let them know that you want them to advocate not just bailing out wealthy corporations, but you want them also to support increases in food benefits, programs like SNAP. Can you do that? If you're up for doing it, we can do all that we can, not only to feed hungry people, but to change the system that makes them hungry in the first place. Jesus fed all those people, he felt compassion. He advocated for them, and he fed them with loaves and fishes. Jesus says to you and me today, let's do that miracle again. It was so cool the first time. Let's do it again and again and again. This is the time of compassion. This is the time of advocacy. This is the time of miracles. As today's poem from David White said, this is the time of loaves and fishes.